Suzanne Simpson woke up on a quiet morning in her suburban Texas home. The sun came through the curtains like it always did. Nothing about that day felt unusual. She made coffee, checked her phone, and moved around the house in silence. To anyone watching from outside, it looked like a normal American morning. No one knew this would be the last day she was ever seen. Suzanne lived in a calm neighborhood where people waved but rarely talked much. Her house sat on a clean street with trimmed lawns and parked cars. She was known as private, polite, and careful. She did not cause trouble. She did not live a risky life. That is what made her disappearance so shocking. Around mid-morning, Suzanne went about her routine. She made a short phone call. She sent a few messages. Her phone activity showed nothing strange. Later, she was seen outside the house. A neighbor noticed her car parked in the driveway, the same way it always was. There were no signs of fear, no rush, no argument in public. By early afternoon, Suzanne was back inside. The house was quiet. Her husband was home too. According to him, the day went on normally. He said they talked. He said they had a small disagreement, nothing serious. Just a normal married couple issue. He said Susan needed space. As evening came, the neighborhood settled down. Lights turned on in windows. Families ate dinner. Around this time, Suzanne's phone sent its last signal. After that, there was nothing. No calls. No texts. No movement. Just silence. Later that night, something felt wrong. Suzanne did not answer her phone. This was not normal for her. Hours passed. Messages went unread. Still, no one called the police. At first, people thought she just needed time alone. The next morning, the truth became harder to ignore. Suzanne was gone. Her car was still there. It was parked neatly. The doors were unlocked. Inside the car were her purse and personal items. The keys were missing. There were no signs of a struggle. No broken glass. No blood. No note. Police were called, and officers arrived at the house. They asked simple questions. When was the last time you saw her? What was she wearing? Did she say anything strange? The answers did not explain her sudden disappearance. Officers searched the home. Everything looked normal. Too normal. Clothes were still in the closet. Shoes were by the door. Her phone charger was plugged in. If Suzanne planned to leave, she left without preparing. Investigators marked the time of her disappearance as sometime the night before. That small window of time became very important. What happened in those few hours? Who saw her last? And why did no one hear anything? As the day went on, neighbors gathered quietly. Some said they heard nothing. Others were unsure. One person mentioned hearing raised voices late at night, but could not be certain. It was not reported at the time. Now it felt important. Police labeled it a missing person case. At first, they considered the possibility that Suzanne left on her own. But something did not fit. Suzanne had strong ties to her routine. She did not just disappear without her phone, money, or car. As night fell again, the house stood dark and silent. Search plans were being made. Questions were piling up. Suzanne Simpson had vanished without a trace. And the most troubling question of all hung in the air. If Suzanne did not leave by choice, then what really happened inside that quiet house that night? Morning came with sirens and questions. Suzanne Simpson was officially missing, and the calm street no longer felt safe. Police cars lined the curb, and neighbors watched from behind curtains. Officers moved fast but spoke softly, careful not to scare anyone. They treated the house like a quiet puzzle. The first step was time. Detectives built a timeline from the last confirmed phone signal to the moment her absence was reported. Every minute mattered. They asked who saw Susan last, who spoke to her, and who was inside the house that night. Answers came slowly and did not always match. Search teams arrived before noon. They checked nearby roads, empty lots, and wooded areas close to the neighborhood. Dogs followed scent paths that led nowhere. Helicopters circled above, drawing attention from miles away. Still, there was no sign of Suzanne. At the same time, police questioned neighbors. Most said they heard nothing unusual. A few mentioned loud voices late at night, but could not say from where. One neighbor remembered seeing lights on later than usual. Another recalled a car door closing after midnight. None of it felt strong enough, yet all of it mattered. Inside the house, officers noted details. Suzanne's shoes were by the door. Her jacket was still inside. The bed looked slept in. Nothing seemed packed. If she left, she did not plan it. If someone took her, they left no clear trace. By afternoon, the case changed tone. Investigators no longer spoke about a simple walk away. Suzanne had no history of running off. She loved routine. She stayed in touch. Her sudden silence felt wrong. Detectives began using words like concern and risk. Her husband remained calm in public. He answered questions and repeated his story. He said they argued. Then she went quiet. He said he slept. He said he woke up alone. Police wrote it down, but did not challenge him yet. It was too early. As night fell, media arrived. News vans parked nearby. Suzanne's name spread across local channels. Friends and family shared photos, hoping someone had seen her. The story reached people far beyond the neighborhood. Search efforts paused after dark. Officers stood near the house, watching. The street lights flickered on. The silence felt heavier than before. Somewhere in those lost hours, Suzanne had vanished. Detectives gathered notes and looked again at the timeline. There was a gap, a stretch of time with no clear answers. No calls, no cameras, no witnesses. That gap became the center of the case. As day 2 approached, one question grew louder than all the rest. If Suzanne never left the area, then someone knew exactly what happened. And if someone knew, why had they stayed silent? By dawn, volunteers signed up to search again. Flyers were printed and taped to poles. Tips began to come in, many false, some hopeful. Detectives prepared warrants and reviewed maps. They focused on routes, times, and human behavior. Pressure grew on everyone involved. The town held its breath, waiting for a break. Somewhere, a choice had been made, and consequences were coming. The case was no longer about a missing woman alone. It was about truth, silence, and the thin line between accident and intent. Every hour without answers deepened doubt. Every sound after dark felt suspicious. Investigators knew patience mattered, but urgency ruled. The clock kept moving. Evidence fades. Memories change. Someone would speak, or the silence would harden forever. The next move would decide everything. And everyone sensed the truth was close. Yet danger followed each step. Nothing would stay hidden for long. Be why the 4th day, detectives shifted their focus. Suzanne Simpson was still missing, but the search outside the home slowed. Now the questions moved inward, toward the man who last saw her alive. Her husband sat in a small interview room, hands folded, voice steady, eyes tired. He told his story again. He said the argument was minor. He said Suzanne wanted space. He said she stayed inside while he went to bed. According to him, nothing felt dangerous. Nothing felt final. Detectives listened without interruption. Then they asked about time. He gave estimates, not exact hours. He paused when asked about the last conversation. He could not remember the exact words. Stress, he said. A long day. Officers nodded but took notes. Phone records were reviewed that afternoon. Suzanne's phone went silent early in the evening. His phone, however, showed movement later that night. Small movements, but real. Pings near the house. Then farther away. The times did not fully match his first statement. When questioned again, his answers changed slightly. He said he checked his phone. He said he stepped outside. He said he could not sleep. None of these details were in the first interview. Detectives noticed. They asked about the unlocked car. He said Suzanne sometimes forgot. They asked about her person's side. He said she did not carry it everywhere. Each answer sounded possible alone. Together, they felt thin. Investigators requested security footage from nearby homes. One camera showed a figure near the driveway late at night. The image was unclear, but the timing mattered. It was after the husband claimed to be asleep. Detectives did not accuse him. Not yet. Instead, they let silence work. Long pauses filled the room. He shifted in his chair. He cleared his throat. He repeated that he loved his wife. Friends were interviewed next. Some described tension in the marriage. Not violent, but heavy. Control issues. Arguments that never happened in public. Suzanne, they said, kept things private. By the end of the week, the case felt different. Officers stopped calling it a disappearance in private meetings. They spoke of probability, of behavior, of patterns seen before. Still, there was no body, no blood, no confession. The husband walked free. He returned home each night, to a house filled with absence. Outside, the town watched. Media questions grew sharper. Online rumors spread. Detectives felt the pressure, but they stayed careful. One mistake could ruin everything. Late one evening, a detective looked at the timeline again. One small window stood out. A short period no one could explain. A moment where truth bent. If Suzanne did not walk away, and if no stranger entered the home, then only one path remained. The question was no longer where Suzanne went. The question was who decided she would never return. That thought followed every investigator. It followed them through paperwork, long drives, and sleepless nights. The house became a silent witness. Walls held memories, but offered no answers. Every detail mattered now. Every step, every pause, every choice. As Part 3 ended, the investigation balanced on uncertainty. Evidence whispered, but did not shout. Suspicion hovered without proof. Someone knew more than they said. The truth was close enough to feel, yet far enough to escape. And as the pressure increased, one mistake, one lie, or one sudden move could finally break the case open. Time was running out, and everyone involved sensed the next reveal would change everything forever. The question was not if, but when. And who would survive the truth? When it finally came into the light. At last, by the second week, the investigation changed direction. Detectives stopped searching fields and focused on secrets. Suzanne Simpson's digital life became the center of attention. Phones, laptops, and old backups were reviewed carefully. Officers believed answers were hidden, not buried. Every message, every deleted file, and every quiet interaction now mattered more than footprints or broken evidence from that moment. Technicians recovered messages Suzanne thought were gone forever. Some texts showed fear, confusion, and doubt. She spoke about feeling trapped, watched, and tired. Nothing criminal, but emotional strain was clear. She hinted at plans, though never said exactly what. Detectives felt this was important. People planning new beginnings often leave signs, even when trying to hide them from their lives. Financial records added another layer. Bills were late. Accounts showed stress. Arguments over money had increased in recent months. Friends confirmed Suzanne worried about control and independence. She wanted change, but feared conflict. Investigators noted these pressures carefully. In many cases, emotional stress becomes a spark. It does not prove guilt, but it explains motives when violence appears suddenly sometimes. Police returned to the house with new eyes. They searched storage areas, trash bins, and hidden spaces again. This time, nothing was assumed innocent. Small details stood out. Cleaning products were recently used. Trash had been removed early. None of this proved a crime, but patterns felt off. Someone seemed to have tried restoring normalcy too quickly after chaos ended. Witnesses slowly grew braver. One neighbor spoke about repeated arguments heard over weeks. Another mentioned Suzanne looked nervous days before vanishing. A friend shared a private conversation where Suzanne said she felt unsafe. These statements were not dramatic alone. Together, they formed a picture of fear building quietly behind closed doors inside her own home at night, repeatedly unseen before. Behind the scenes, detectives debated strategy. Arrest too early, and the case could fail. Wait too long, and evidence could disappear. Public pressure grew louder. Media headlines hinted at guilt without proof. Investigators stayed focused. They believed one mistake, one slip, or one emotional crack would reveal the truth they needed before everything collapsed beyond repair forever for everyone involved. The husband noticed the shift. Interviews became sharper. Questions repeated. Silence lasted longer. He appeared calm, but tension showed. Friends said he was distant and defensive. Police watched carefully. Behavior after loss often reveals more than words. Grief can hide guilt, but guilt often leaks through small, unguarded moments, especially during pressure-filled investigations like this one unfolding slowly now. Prosecutors were quietly consulted. They reviewed evidence and timelines. The message was clear. The case was close, but not ready. More was needed. Something solid. A witness, a confession, or physical proof. Until then, Suzanne Simpson remained missing, not legally a victim. That distinction shaped every decision ahead and slowed the rush toward justice many outsiders demanded loudly already then. As weeks passed, hope faded but suspicion hardened. The community changed. Trust thinned. People locked doors earlier. Every noise felt louder. Suzanne's face stared from flyers and screens. She became a symbol, not just a person. A reminder that danger can live quietly inside ordinary American homes, without warning, hiding behind smiles, routines, and familiar walls every single day now. Part 4 closed with pressure building. Evidence pointed inward. Silence grew heavy. Someone knew the truth. Someone was waiting. The next move would decide everything. Because once law enforcement crossed that final line, there would be no turning back. And when the truth surfaced, it would destroy the life it touched and leave questions that could never be answered fully. To be why the third month, the case entered its darkest phase. Suzanne Simpson was no longer treated as a missing person behind closed doors. Investigators believed she was dead, even without a body. That belief changed everything. Searches became targeted. Conversations became careful. Every move now carried legal weight. Police narrowed their focus to a few key locations. These were places connected by time, distance, and behavior. Rural roads, quiet areas, spots that could be reached quickly at night and left without witnesses. Teams searched again, slower and more detailed than before. They dug shallow areas. They scanned water. Still, nothing was found. Behind the scenes, detectives built a case piece by piece. Phone data showed patterns. Financial records showed strain. Witness statements pointed toward escalating conflict. None of it proved murder alone. Together, it told a story of pressure reaching a breaking point. The husband was watched closely. Officers tracked movements. They noted who he spoke to and when. His routine changed. He avoided cameras. He spoke less. Friends described him as angry, not grieving. That detail stayed with investigators. Grief looks different on everyone, but anger often hides fear. One witness came forward quietly. Not a stranger. Someone close. This person shared information that shifted the investigation. It filled a gap in the timeline. It placed someone where they claimed they were not. Detectives did not celebrate. They knew this kind of testimony could break or save the case. Prosecutors reviewed everything again. They asked hard questions. Could a jury believe this without physical proof? Could motive replace a body? The answer was uncertain. American courts demand facts, not feelings. Still, prosecutors agreed the evidence was moving in one direction. Police made a public statement. They announced they believed Suzanne was no longer alive. The words hit hard. The family reacted with pain. The community reacted with shock. Media attention exploded. Every detail was questioned. Every past interview replayed. The husband responded through a lawyer. He denied everything. He claimed police were wrong. He said Suzanne left voluntarily. His tone was defensive. Investigators expected that. They focused on what he did not say. Pressure mounted. Search warrants expanded. Old trash records were reviewed. Vehicle data was examined again. Nothing was ignored now. Even the smallest inconsistency could matter in court later. Despite all efforts, one problem remained. Suzanne's body had not been found. Without it, the case balanced on logic and trust. Prosecutors warned patience was necessary. Rushing could destroy years of work. As weeks passed, the public grew restless. Online theories spread. Some blamed police. Some blamed the husband. Some believed Suzanne was alive somewhere. Detectives ignored the noise. They followed evidence, not emotion. Then came a turning point. Investigators uncovered a detail missed earlier. Something ordinary. Something overlooked because it seemed unimportant. When placed into the timeline correctly, it changed the meaning of everything else. The case tightened. Still, no arrest was made. Not yet. Part 5 ended with uncertainty, but also direction. Police were closer than ever. Suzanne Simpson's story was no longer fading. It was sharpening. The truth was being boxed in slowly. The final step would require courage. Someone would have to speak, or something would have to surface. Until then, silence ruled. But silence, detectives knew, never lasts forever. Years passed, but Suzanne Simpson's name never faded. Her case remained open, active, and unresolved. Detectives changed. Leads dried up and restarted. New officers reviewed old files with fresh eyes. The house where she vanished stood quiet, holding answers it refused to give. Officially, Suzanne was still missing. Unofficially, investigators believed the truth was known by someone who refused to speak. Without a body, the law demanded patience. Prosecutors could not move forward on belief alone. Evidence had to be solid, clear, and strong enough to survive court. Her family never stopped searching. Birthdays passed without celebration. Holidays came with empty chairs. They spoke to media, not for attention, but for memory. They wanted Suzanne remembered as a person, not a headline. Every interview ended with the same request. Someone knows something. Please come forward. The husband continued living his life under a shadow. He was never charged. He was never cleared. Every move he made was watched, analyzed, and judged. Some believed justice had failed. Others believed it was still coming. In true crime, time can protect the guilty, but it can also expose them. Investigators revisited old evidence repeatedly. Technology improved. Data once unreadable became accessible. Small digital fragments were re-examined. A message here, a location ping there. Each review brought questions, but no final proof. Public interest rose and fell. Online forums debated theories. Some claimed Suzanne escaped. Others believed the truth was obvious. Detectives ignored speculation. They followed procedure, knowing one mistake could erase the chance of justice forever. One unresolved detail continued to haunt the case. A short window of time. A gap where actions were unaccounted for. That gap held the answer. If it could be filled, the entire story would change. Law enforcement admitted mistakes, delays, missed opportunities. They acknowledged how fragile missing person cases become when hours are lost early. Suzanne's disappearance became a lesson taught quietly to new officers. Act fast. Assume nothing. Every minute matters. Despite everything, hope remained. Cases like this sometimes break years later. A conscience cracks. A relationship ends. A secret grows too heavy. Detectives believed that day could still come. Suzanne's story became more than a case. It became a warning. Danger does not always arrive loudly. Sometimes it lives in routine, silence, and familiar walls. Sometimes the most ordinary nights hold irreversible choices. As Part 6 closes, questions remain unanswered. What truly happened inside that house? Was Suzanne planning to leave, or was her future stolen from her? Did someone act in anger, fear, or control? And most important, will the truth ever fully come out? The file remains open. The door to justice remains unlocked. Someone holds the key. Until that moment arrives, Suzanne Simpson's disappearance stands as one of those haunting American mysteries where silence speaks loudest and the truth waits patiently for its chance to be heard. Because in the end, time does not erase truth. It only waits, and it always returns.